Welcome back, guys. Today's show is going to be all about going back to filmmaking basics. And as always, I got my brother here, Lucas. Say
Hi
hello.
everyone. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening.
Yeah,
Hello everyone.
actually, yeah, because it's people are joining us always from all over the world. So maybe let us know where you guys are joining us from. What city, what part of the world, and what time is it over there. Anyway, so today's show I kind of wanted to do about kind of like the title says, going back to the basics, and the reason is because it's if holidays are coming up. I know we're all going to be kind of going crazy, looking probably for like either gifts for other people or gifts for ourselves as filmmakers, and we're gonna maybe not everybody, but I know a lot of us have a tendency to kind of get caught up all in the gear and all the purchase and all that stuff. And for sure, having good gear, good filmmaking tools, all that stuff, is can give you advantages, but I also think can give you big disadvantages. And sometimes it can just get too crazy, like worrying about all that stuff. So I thought because of that, especially before the whole Black Friday big sales and everything, which we are gonna be like, if I find some good deals on something on the gear that I recommend, I'm probably gonna post something. I don't know if I'm gonna post it on YouTube, but if you follow me on Twitter or Facebook, you'll see something, some like little deals here and there. But I also think that it's not very that important if you really want to be a filmmaker to kind of constantly be worrying about it. And like number one question I still get when people ask me, whether it's here on YouTube, but especially when they send to me like messages on Facebook, is like, what should I get this camera? Like for example when the GH5 came out, it's like, oh, should I get the GH5 or should I still get the GH4? It's on sale, like all these, and to me it's like the question is at the end of the day, it's like, well, do you need a camera right now, and do you own a camera? Like, if you don't own any cameras, then yeah, you probably and you want to shoot a project, and then you probably should get a camera. Which one? I mean, just look at what's something that you can comfortably spend, right, the money on. At the same time, if you already own a camera, let's say, and just because a newer, latest model came out, it doesn't really mean that it's not gonna definitely make a big difference in your filmmaking endeavors. Like just having that latest camera, and in a way, I think it can also set you back. I know, like, Lucas, you're always the one who, like, especially years ago, when I was like all getting caught up in the gear and everything, you were the one who kind of sometimes slapped me over the head and kind of it reminded me what's important, right?
I think even a few times like on the verge of buying the red camera, right?
Oh
Different
yeah.
versions, but I mean because it is easy to get excited when especially with the red. I mean when it came out first, like everybody was impressed. I think And so but yeah, I guess we also have to look at the terms of like the way I looked at it was always, okay, we can buy all this gear, like either whether we borrow, go in debt or whatever, sacrifice our, make sacrifices and buy gear. But like the point is, you're doing it for like it has to, you have to make money on it. So then either you have to make your own projects that generate that money, or your clients have to be really have see the value in you spending all that money and so on. And it was easy, like it's you gotta think about the business side too, right? Because sometimes people at the beginning when you're starting out, you want to just get a demo reel going, and there are some projects and somebody wants to do, some people approach you for $1,000, $2,000, $1,000, $2,000 they want to do a video, and they want to have shoot on a red camera or whatever camera can get. And you got to think about, well, does it make sense for you to do that or not, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you're doing it to build up your demo, and then maybe doing something for free even makes sense if it's a really cool project, and for example, the musician gets all kinds of great stuff that will be in front of the camera, then sometimes it makes sense to do stuff for free, and makes sense to rent maybe a really good camera just because you're doing it,
Yeah, for exposure.
Yeah.
And actually, that's a kind of good point that you brought up, because there was not too long ago, a few days ago, basically, on Facebook, I posted. Somebody sent me this ad for a filmmaking job. I don't know what website. Might have been Mendy.com or some filmmaking website. Anyways, they sent me an ad, and I don't know if it was jokes or if that was a real ad, but many people said that they've seen ads very similar to it. So I guess there are people like that posting. And literally, what the ad said was, We're looking for an experienced DP, 10 years preferred with his own camera. I think you said Red Epic even specified a package. And then it also said, but it's a basically non-paying project, full of passionate people, first-time director. But we are gonna pay you with basically lunch, and I think it said IMDb credits. And like I posted it as like making fun of it, going like, yeah, which guy with 10 years experience and a Red Epic kid and all that stuff is really good thing. And if there are people like who are in that position and they're taking these kind of jobs, I mean, either they've completely lost their mind or they're working with very strategic people. But in that case, because it said it was a first-time director, I was kind of thinking the chances of it being, like a project that's going to really push you forward, very, very small. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't do free jobs. And I know then, like, that started a whole conversation on Facebook, and people were going, like, oh, what are you talking about? I would never do jobs for free. All this equipment I invested money into, all that stuff. And I'll tell you this. I'm not saying you should be doing jobs for free, and especially when these kind of weird, job postings come about, you should probably be cautious. But when you have an opportunity, let's say, to work with a filmmaker that is very talented, let's say, it could be sometimes even like big time producers. They want to do something on spec for a big studio or whatever it is, and they just, they literally have no money for that particular project, but they're constantly working in the industry. When you get an opportunity like that, to work with somebody who's seasoned, but they just right now have this little passion project or spec thing that they want to do. Yeah, it probably, even if you have a Red Epic and all this gear, it benefits you to go and donate your time and do it for free. At the same time, just like I said, be aware of who it is that you're donating at that time, literally your time and I guess your equipment to. Because like I said, if it's not the right people, it could be a waste of your time, right? So that's one I would say sort of a kind of a big thing to keep in the back of your mind. Now another thing I want to talk about is actually just kind of like, let's say you're a filmmaker and whether you've already invested a bunch of money in your gear or whatever, or let's say you have nothing and you're just beginning. But at the end of the day, when you have downtime, when you're not, especially when you're beginning, if you're just starting out as a filmmaker, you should be spending every time working on projects. How you do that? Well, there's different ways you can do it. So one way is literally just create your own projects. And actually here, the thumbnail for this video is just a shot of me here. As you guys can see, this was in, Lucas, do you remember when we shot this, the little horror film?
Wow, that was such a long time ago.
2000, I think it was?
Before 2000.
Okay.
Before 2000, yeah.
But yeah, so we did this little thing, film, and I had a nice camera. This was the Canon XL1, I believe. I was already working in animation, so I did already work on films, and as an animator. But I had no experience really as a director or cinematographer, and I really just wanted to kind of get into it and get away from animation. So I invested a lot of money, and at that point, that was a lot of money. This camera alone cost, I think it was like $8,000 that I put of my own money into it, and I'll tell you. Right now, a filmmaker that puts $300 into like a used DSLR, DSLM type of camera, like the old Sony, for example, A6000 or things like that, or Canon 5D, the old one, you're gonna get better quality than I got with that Canon camera. So you're in a much better position than I was back in the day, because like I said, I had to fork out a lot of money. But as you see, I even that was it. Like I put all my money into this camera, and I did not have money to put into anything else. So I don't know if you can see, I built my own Steadicam, like literally out of pieces of aluminum and wood and things like that, and it wasn't the greatest, but it did the job. I also put like this little, which was like this little portable TV that like back in the day was like the rage. And I had one of these, and I just decided to what's it called, to kind of utilize it and convert it so it would work as my monitor. I mean, like, I improvised, and I had to spend a lot of time, but it cost me almost nothing, I'm saying, outside of the camera, right? And like I said, today, those cameras are very affordable. So as long as you can get a basic camera, the rest, you can make it work. And I would almost say sometimes having those limitations, you probably don't want to have those limitations when you're working on big projects, but then again, a big project, you're going to have a lot of money, so you don't have to worry about this stuff. But when you're starting out, I think it can be a good thing to actually be limited in some ways. Here's, for example, another shot of me with, I forgot, this was another Canon camera. This was like a few years after that film we shot. And I had this Red Rack micro kind of adapter, so I could start using like, SLR lenses and get like the shallower depth of field. So I remember those were the days. What else are here? Here, for example, see, I started like working for basically different production companies around Toronto. So I could get a chance to kind of work on something bigger, better equipment. And I didn't have to spend money this way on this big gear, right? That's kind of how I learned. So here, for example, I'll show you a film that I always show, like when people ask me, like, what can you do, when you have no money? Well, here's, for example, like this one film that we did with my brother, and it was literally, me, Lucas. Like Lucas wrote the script, I directed it. Lucas actually also was the actor in there, right? And our little brother, Greg, he played the main character in the film. And then we had, these are actually two friends of ours that just came out for this little opening scene. And then we did have two professional actors, Jeff Sinisek and Tanya Dodds, that played like the parts that were the most like really required acting. But otherwise, there was no actors. And we shot this whole film in, was it 2 days, Lucas?
I believe so. 2 days. I mean, we did some pickup shots, and for those forest scenes with me. I think, I think it's 2.5 days. Let's say something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just used literally for the whole film. I used the Canon 7D, which you see me operating over there, and on this little old like gimbal. This it's sort of like a Flycam kind of a copy. It cost $150. This little gimbal. So that's all I had. I don't even think I used the tripod for the whole thing. I did have some car shots, and for those I built my own car mount for, I think it's like $80 or $50, something like that. And I have a tutorial about it, so you can find that on my website. And that's literally how we did this whole film. And I mean, we were able to do some pretty cool things, I think, in that film. And we did it not because, I had at this point access to better equipment and all that stuff, but we did it because, for me especially, I kind of wanted to just do something where I didn't have to worry about money. And see, this is doing makeup. My little brother here in this scene, he was supposed to be like, after he went through all this hardship, so he was supposed to be all dirty and everything, and we had no makeup artist. So I just told him, just crawl on the ground, come up with something, let's dirty those clothes. And he did it. And as you can see, it kind of created a lot of fun moments, and we just, it was just fun working on a project like that. These are the two professional actors that we had, and they came out for free. They were just friends of ours. And that's it. I mean, that's kind of how we did this whole project. And I think, for me at least, it was fun. I don't know about you, Lucas. Did you enjoy yourself?
Oh, for sure, yeah. For the site, like, it's a small production, so not too many people. So it's more casual. Whereas once you have a lot of people, it's like a big operation. Then you have to be like a general, or you have a lot of people responsible. You're responsible for. You got to make sure everything is working smoothly. So, for example, the feature film we shot, Under Black Skies, was like a first big project for us.
Yeah,
that one was stressful, like on the production side for me. I was taking care of the production, and it was stressful. Mm-hmm. So for sure, it's,
I think
it's nicer.
I have some photos. We don't have any behind the scenes, but yeah, go on.
No, so yeah, for sure, doing these, short films. Then even like even if the days are very, very intensive, after day 2, 3, you're done. And so it's great. And also the fact that the turnaround for the post production is going to be much quicker. It's also much more rewarding than you can, if you can get the final product out to people and then get the feedback and so on. And it's much easier to work on short term goals than if you work on the feature film maybe for 2 years, right? Yeah,
especially with the post production, pre production, everything. And here, for example, like here's Lucas ripping up grass. This is our first big project. It was a feature film shot on 16mm. And I remember, we spent a lot of money because back in the day those things cost a lot of money. Whereas now you guys have it easier. But you can see, build my own dolly there. It didn't always work great, but Lucas was kind of there on point trying to get the grass to basically, because it was getting stuck, I remember, in the wheels.
Right.
Little things like that. Here, me just literally holding the camera, lying on the ground. Lucas is kind of supporting the magazine, and that's kind of how we shot that. That was this kind of a bigger project. But yeah, especially when we did these really low budget projects, that's where I think it's just a lot more enjoyable. Here's another film behind the scenes of this was like a I think like a half-hour film that we shot called the Screwdriver Plan. I'm not even sure if we have it online anywhere for people to watch, but it was like a project that we just shot literally on this one camera, the Canon XL1 with my first ever Manfrotto tripod, and it was a fun project. Again, very small team, very kind of intimate, and there wasn't really money behind it, so there was no stress of like, oh my god, are we overspending or things like that. So, what else is here? Let me show you. Just for example, from my days working on different TV kind of reports and stuff. So it was just me holding the camera, tripod, and we traveled all over the world there, pretty much doing those things. Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that I guess like I said, that I enjoy doing, and that I would almost encourage you guys to do. And here's actually a film that I'm going to be releasing, I think, at the end of this week. So I'm going to show a little bit of this kind of the intro here. The film is still not finished. We're doing kind of the last sound mix, so I'm not playing the sound. Plus, even like the visuals, the colors, and the special effects are not included in this version that you can see. But this film, the reason why I'm showing you is, well, A, because I'm going to be releasing it at the end of the week, like I said. But I also wanted to show you because I think it's a great example of what can be done basically with no money. So I was literally on vacation in South America with my family, and this was in 2015. Yeah, in 2015. And I was, like I said, on vacation, not really planning to do anything, but I had just my GH4 with me, just for the hell of it, for like home videos. And then I decided, you know what, maybe we can shoot something, because I met this filmmaker in Ecuador, Denny One, which if you follow me, you already know. I've already worked with him since then, but this was the first project that we ever end up working on, and the reason why, I wanted to show this basically to you guys is because, like I said, this project came about in the span of about 2 days. I was, like I said, there. I had a few days where I was in the city, kind of bored, nothing was happening, and this is Denny up here. He's adjusting the light here. He's wearing the hat there, and I just contacted Denny, and I was like, hey man, I've seen your work, and I would want to actually kind of see maybe how we could work together. We've never worked together, and you kind of want to usually test those things out before you embark working on like bigger projects where there's more stress, like I said, more money. So I told him, like, I have no money, I have my GH4, I have no lights with me. Can you figure out get some lights or something, and then I'll come up with some script and we'll shoot something. And he said, yeah, sure, let's do it. So he found out those little lights that you saw there. Here I was putting like this different, I remember like some pieces of a rig, and then he had some other things that we kind of built this sort of this Frankenstein rig out of all these different pieces. And then the lights were very simple. We didn't even have light stands. We only had one light stand, I remember. So there's some shots even that you'll see here behind the scenes where like literally had, see, we had this light on there, and then we had people holding the other lights. Like we had like sometimes an edge light or things like that. So here, let me just show you. And yeah, and anyways, like I said, I guess again the point why I want to kind of show to you guys is because kind of show you how even like this last minute and completely no money kind of a project, how it can be fun. You can see this guy there in the back, he's holding up the light. He was our human light stand, and we shot this. We shot one kind of evening in this little bar, and then another day out in the desert, and that was it. And yeah, I think it was again fun project. First time for me working with an all Spanish crew and cinematographer. Danny did the photography in this film, and my Spanish is very, very, very limited. So that was also a learning curve.
I think your son is going to speak more Spanish than you, or your sons.
I think so, yeah. And as you can see, like I just went for it, and it was like I said, it was kind of to test out, see how I work with Danny. But also I was just like, like we have a few days down. Let's do something. And we shot this film, and I completely forgot about it because, like I said, I kind of just did it as a test. I wasn't planning to release the film. But then, just a few weeks ago, basically, like I was looking at it and I'm like, let me actually finish this film. So I edited it, and now I'm kind of doing little like color grading, some minor effects to it. And like I said, we're going to release it so you guys can see the film. And and it was just fun. It was just fun working. Here Danny doing his different tricks, which I'm going to talk about this kind of stuff and what we did when I'm actually going to release the film and kind of show you guys more behind the scenes and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was just fun. Here I can also show you maybe before we show today's submission, kind of this fun little moment. Watch this. This is Danny directing actors. He's not the most gentle of directors, but anyway. So that's how this you know that's how these kind of productions go. And like I said, I still do them to this day because, like I said, at the end of the day, they're fun, and I think they make you a better filmmaker. That's really my best advice. So that's why I'll tell you guys, even if you're already in the industry and you're working on that stuff, but you have downtime, just literally come up with projects. Call up your filmmaker friends or whoever, or contact other filmmakers that maybe you want to collaborate with, and tell them like, hey, you know, I want to offer my help, whatever. I have this skill, that skill, because each time you're working on every project, doesn't matter how much experience you think you already have, you're gonna get better. Even if it's a bad project, like even if you do something where you're like, oh, that doesn't look that good, you're gonna then learn what not to do. And also, if you work with the right people, then I think you're just gonna have fun. So. And then if you're a beginner filmmaker and you can't afford to get, you know, all these cool gadgets and things that people are going to be buying, especially now for the holidays and things like that, don't sweat it, you know, over it. You know, when you see, even when you see me, but like other filmmakers, like showing you the latest gadget and this and that, we're showing you it out there because, like I said, you know, there are some people who have the money, they want to invest it in their, you know, in their production company, and they're just looking for better deals, for equipment that just works better and things like that. That's the reason why me and other filmmakers out there will do these reviews and provide like information about these things. But that's not to think that you have to, each time you see it's like, oh my god, I have to get that because if I want to have the best sound or if I want to have the best light in my film, I need to get that latest light. That's not really what it's for, like I said. And if your wallet can't afford it, then that can actually create a lot of other problems for you. So yeah, that's my kind of just 2 cents. I don't know, Lucas, if you want to add something.
I wanted to throw at you one question, which ties well with that. So from user I'm barely scared, saying that I don't have a camera, but whenever I need one, and my friends always lend one to me. And the reason why I haven't bought mine is because he wants to buy a 4K camera, and so he's still saving for it. And so since he can, you know, borrow the cameras, a camera, should he buy one? Having said all you just said about, you know, not spending money and just getting by with what you have, doesn't make sense for him to buy a camera.
His own camera? He has no other way of getting the camera, basically, I guess.
No, he gets always is able to get a camera from his friends. So.
Okay, and you know what? I would say this. If your friends are willing, keep on working with your friends, keep on thinking. Now, if that creates problems for you and you can see that you're kind of ready, let's say, to take it to the next step, you think like, you know, you want to do bigger, better projects or just work more often, harder, and let's say your friends are not really, you know, on the same line with you, then, you know, relying on them, slowly you're going to see that basically relying on rent, you know, borrowing or rent the gear and stuff like that might be slowing you down. Then that's, at that point, you're probably already going to be ready to start basically getting actually paid jobs. Like I said, like I started out and I was like, I was already working in animation, but I had no experience doing cinematography or directing. And I literally just went to like local bands and musicians that I met at the time I lived in Toronto. And I would just go and approach them and I was like, hey, you know, I want to do a music video for you. I'll do it for free. Just to, you know, to give me a chance to direct it. And you arrange the production, like you get the locations or whatever. But I'll bring my camera, all that stuff, and thing. And so in that point, I remember I had no camera, like because I had my old Canon XL1, which was basically just considered a joke. But by the point I started kind of doing these music videos, because everybody was switching to, you know, HD cameras. So I had to go and actually bought my own HD camera, and then I started, you know, and I bought that little Red Rock, you know, super 35mm lens adapter, and you know, spent a lot of my own money, and I did these jobs for free. But like I said, I was ready to kind of take that next step, and I knew that those serious sort of musicians and, you know, other artists are going to take me seriously too. I did it, and I'll tell you, I did only, I think it was like 2 or 3 of these like non-paying music videos. And then right after, because my work was already, like I said, was speaking for itself, was promoting me. And then those music videos, because they were played, you know, on television across all of Canada, it promoted me. So then I started getting jobs to actually start doing other music videos and things like that. You might even get luckier, even more than me, and literally after you've done a few of these projects where you're borrowing cameras from your friends, you might already start getting some, you know, local businesses and musicians asking you, hey, can you do a video for me? I can give you, you know, $200, 200, like whatever. Might not be a lot of money at first, But you can take all of that money that you're getting, instead of spending it, you know, on whatever, junk food or whatever, just go and put it towards a little camera, and then you already have your own camera, right? Because yeah, if with time you want to, like I said, you do want to build up your own production company arsenal, kind of. So you know so you can be quickly kind of, you can get up and you can start shooting. But that, like I said, don't expect to do that right from the beginning. So hopefully that answers my the
what I would say is like just seeing, you know, us working whenever we, you know, we work with a new camera. Like I think there's been a case or two where we, you know, we would just get the camera, never had a chance to really work with it or spend time with the camera before the shoot.
Yeah.
And you think, you know, you more or less, you know how the cameras work, so you'll be okay. But the fact is, if you're just always borrowing cameras from your friends, I mean, if it's the same camera, then you'll get familiar with pretty fast. But on the day of the shoot, it's just like there's, you know, usually the pace is so high that there's a lot of value in being able to have the camera, you know, between the shoots and being able to test and experiment. And like there's little things you might actually pick up in terms of like how we can, you know, optimize the camera, changing the settings and so on. So that's where like there's a big value in knowing your camera well, right?
Yeah.
And so that's that. So in general, I would say with other gear, like if you can get freebies, that's great, you know. But with one camera is like sort of your, you know, your weapon or whatever. It's like the most important thing. So
yeah,
you knowing it inside out is a big value. But if you're basically always using the same camera that your friends have, then I guess that it's not an issue.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, like you said, it's also good to have it for when you're doing like the in-between projects, you want to do a test or something, right? Because later on, like at the beginning, you probably won't be doing that, but once you start doing a few projects, you're going to see that how important it is to first come up with an exact vision. And when I say vision, not just, I don't mean just like the idea for the video, or not even specific idea for specific angles, but what kind of lenses you're going to use, what kind of colors you're going to do, what kind of lighting are you going to use, natural lighting, and if so, what time of the day should you be at the location? Like all those things are going to make such a big difference. You're going to realize. And the best way to learn that stuff is by doing camera tests before you actually film your projects. You know, and that's kind of like I said. I mean, I do that now on pretty much every project, unless it's like a last-minute project that just came along and I literally have no time to do tests. But otherwise, I'll do tests. Even this little film here that we shot with our brother. As you can see, this is me pretending, you know, making the car look like it's moving. Yeah, even on this project, like I said, I did some camera tests and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you know, like I said, after all my tests and everything, I kind of knew that I didn't have to rely on all this big expensive gear. I just pretty much shot the whole thing on that Canon 7D and that one kit lens too, which was, you know, I think, you know, pretty incredible. Now when I think about it, right, that I did it like that. But yeah, that's I think that's the, you know, the important thing is to keep active. And like I said, is instead of making excuses, because there's always a ton of excuses we can all make of like, oh, I can't do this because of that or this and that. It's, you know, yes, I understand some of us are in a harder position than others, but you know what? Instead of spending the time making excuses, come up with solutions. That's literally what it comes down to. Is yes, some people will have it a bit easier than others, but who cares? Like at the end of the, you know, the world doesn't care. You know, like all those filmmakers, whether they came from nothing or they came from something, you know, nobody really cares. It's just what they care about is, you know, once you create something cool. And there's plenty of filmmakers who had nothing to work with, literally had all these limitations, but they came up with solutions around those limitations, instead of, you know, spending time complaining. And now, you know, we all talk about them, we know their work. So any other questions, I guess?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of questions. So one here that's okay. So from director Divine, do you think upgrading from a Canon 7D, the first generation, to the Panasonic GH4, is that a smart idea? So those are the two cameras you had, right? You upgraded, actually. That was the upgrade you did when you were shooting on the 7D for a long time, and then your next camera was the one that you owned, right? Yeah, was the GH4, right? So I guess you can. So was it a good, significant upgrade?
I mean, it was. I'm not gonna lie. Here you can see me shooting with the 7D. Now here's the thing, though. I already, at this point when we were shooting this film, I already had the GH4. And like I said, you know, this was kind of like a film, like a kind of an exercise for me. So that was the reason why I was like, okay, I'm going to shoot on the 7D. And especially after having gone back from the GH4 to the 7D, that's when I realized, oh, you know, there's these nice things and tools that this newer camera now offers me that I've gotten used to. But I'll tell you something. At the beginning, when I was shooting with the 7D, before I had a chance to even use the GH4, I didn't know really what those big advantages were. I remember, like, for me, for the longest time, I just thought when I started seeing these newer cameras that had, like, offered 4K, for example, video, and that was one of the big selling points for me for the GH4, is that it offered 4K video, and since I do a lot of effects, it was having that extra resolution was going to be very helpful. And I remember I thought to myself, you know, I really need to get it. I need to get it for that 4K. For that 4K is going to make such a difference in my life. And I didn't even realize that the GH4 actually has some other really cool things that like I said, until I had a chance to use the camera, I didn't even know about those things. And the 4K wasn't that much of a big difference. That in itself wasn't. So what that just tells you is that a lot of times, like, if you if I didn't even spend time reading online about the GH4 or whatever other camera, I would have been totally perfectly fine shooting with the 7D. That's not to say that the GH4 doesn't give you some advantages, but it's not going to make your film look better. It doesn't give you an advantage in that sense at all. It just simply makes it, you know, like certain menu buttons are quicker to access. Like I said, yeah, you get sharper video because you're shooting in 4K versus, you know, 1080 or 7D wasn't even like fully 1080 video. It was very, very kind of soft and looking. But like I said, those are the things that are, you know, like I said, there's always gonna be improvements with the new gear, but again, it's not like this day and night. And so what I would say is, should you upgrade from the 7D to the GH4? Well, like I said, if you're gonna know when you're at the right place where you kind of feel like, okay, I'm ready to take that next step. Because but it's only when you know that it's not really, you're not upgrading because, oh my god, my work looks like crap right now and this new camera is going to make a difference. Your work right now, doesn't matter what camera it is that you're using, should already look good. If it looks good and it gets other people, other filmmakers or other people, you know, in your area talking about you and maybe wanting to work with you, that's when you should be, okay, you know what, I'm ready to take the next step and put in basically more money into this newer gear.
Yeah, I would just say, yeah, so, because there was like this question that's specifically asking about whether 4K is worth it. So you already addressed that. But I would just add that nowadays, like, there isn't much of a premium you're paying to get a 4K camera, unless, like, if you're looking for a Canon, for example, you want to have a Canon camera, then there is a big premium, right? But yeah. So yeah, it depends. Like, changes, you know, with time. I mean, 3-4 years ago, there was you know, when you were getting GH4, you thought it would be a big deal to get a, you know, 4K camera, and it was more expensive to go that way. But nowadays, you know, it's about the same. Like, you're not paying that much to get 4K camera. So I guess it's not a must. But who would you recommend it for, though, the 4K camera? Like, people who do a lot of posts, or like in terms of effects and so on, who need the extra resolution, or pretty much anybody can take advantage of it?
These days, I would say, yeah, anybody can take advantage of it, but I think definitely if you're doing effects, it's just that much more helpful, right?
Right.
So that's something to keep in mind. But again,
also,
yeah,
like, be able to crop in, right? Like, and for example, if you're doing interview and just being able to do right away from one camera, you know, you have the same angle, you right away cropping in, that's nice. People who do like stuff on YouTube or do product reviews, also it's nice to be able to crop in and so on, right?
Yeah.
So there's some depends really what you do. Okay, next question here is from Sermet, and he has a T3i, which I have also, and he's asking if he makes viral videos, and should he upgrade? So T3i is is a kind of a.
So if you do viral videos, are basically for Facebook, for, you know, whatever, Instagram, for YouTube maybe, right?
I'm assuming short videos. Yeah. You know, not like he's not spending months on them, right? Because,
yeah. So I would say no. I mean, the T2i is perfectly, like, you know, it's for that resolution and for that kind of quality. Yeah, it's really thing. You know, when you go into bigger cameras, like for example, like the GH5 now, yeah, it has 4K. It has, for example, 10-bit. That's stuff that's like when you're finishing a project where you have to, let's say, have, you know, higher quality deliverables to, let's say, you know, to your distributor for your film. That's where those things really are going to come in handy. But it's not something that you really need at the you know, right now, especially when you're doing just stuff for online videos. I mean, there's people who do like channels that are doing viral videos that are getting millions of views. And they're shooting it on the, you know, like if I say one channel, I forgot his name, but anyways, he's using the GoPro 3, Hero 3 still. and it looks great. He just, he knows how to use it, and it really comes down to content at that point, right? Even because the GoPro Hero 3 is nice, sharp enough, quality. So that's really what it comes down to. I mean, I know another guy that we've worked with, right? Lucas Daystorm, and he's to this day he just had like won the what was it, those the online awards? I always forget the names. Not Telly, but Pixie Awards, whatever. Anyways, he won the award for for the best online series, and it was the man, I forgot. It was like a series that he did, kind of a musical with like hip hop music cut, and it was all done on using cell phones pretty much. So shot it on the cell phone, edited, just uploaded it mainly to like Instagram and Facebook, and these things got millions of views. And and now it sounds like he got a big deal, so to do like start his own like a network with a few other creators. So you can definitely do things with, like I say, even your cell phone these days. So yep.
Okay, here another Canon user. He's got the 6D and T5i. And which one is better to shoot short movies? And what advice do you have for shooting with those cameras? So the 6D, if I remember, 6D is the one with the full frame sensor, right? So it's like a cheaper version. Like if you don't want to spend the money on a 5D, then 6D still gives you the full sensor, right? For and T5i is similar camera to the T3i that we just talked about. So I mean, there's a difference in quality in terms of like if you want to, in terms of the noise of the image, in terms of the how easy it's going to be get the depth of field. Now working with full frame camera, and what do you say, Tom? Like in terms of on a movie, like sometimes it's a challenge with the lenses to get the right lenses.
It has a cool look, right? I mean, it has a cool look because you're getting the shallow depth of field. You can get a wider field of view. And at the same time, there's disadvantages to it. If you want to get a narrower depth of field, like there's some directors that love to shoot, really, really long lenses. Like especially if you look at, like, for example, the director, I really liked his movies, especially from like the 90s, Tony Scott, and all the cinematography in his films always were like these long lenses, real close-ups and things like that, very compressed. Even if there was a wide shot, it was very compressed. And that's when having the longer lenses is better. In that case, shooting full frame is actually hurting you. So really comes down to your style, I would say. But you also got to be aware of the fact that like 90% of the stuff that's shot, or even more than 90, is shot on cameras that are cinema cameras, or well, basically it's the same image size sensor as like an APS-C, camera, photography camera. So like something like Canon 7D or Sony A6300, 6500, like those cameras. And that's that's the image size sensor, and so that's the kind of depth of field and look at it you're gonna get like majority of films. Yes, there are some films that are shot on the IMAX or the cinema scope with the crazy thing. What was it, like the last Tarantino film, the 8? What was it called? The Crazy 8, whatever. Forget the name, the title of it.
Oh man,
but
blanking out.
Yeah, but anyways,
the Western. Right?
Yeah, the Western. So that film, for example, was shot again on like bigger size, basically, camera and stuff. But then that also creates a lot of problems, especially, DSLRs, maybe the cameras aren't bigger, but if you have a full-frame DSLR, you got to be aware of that. Now, a lot of these lenses that you thought you could use, that are like, could be great lenses and very affordable, but they're only for APS-C size cameras, because there's not as many lenses that cover the full frame that are also good for video. There's a lot of great full-frame lenses for photography, but not so much for video. A lot of nice cinema glasses won't cover a full frame thing. So you got to be aware of those things. And like I said, then that just simply means that you're suddenly, not just investing money into like, oh, this camera because it's full frame, but you're going to be more limited, but also you're going to spend usually more money on full frame glass. So keep those things in mind. And then that's what I said, is just think about it. Is that the kind of style that I want? Like if you're shooting a lot of crazy wide angles, or you still want shallow depth of field, yes, then you want a full frame. But if you're shooting more on longer lenses and things like that, then you actually don't want full frame. In some cases, you might even want a camera with like a micro four thirds image sensor. So you got to be aware of those things, right?
Okay, another here a question from Sagar Keswani. He's got a Nikon D5300. He says it's a good camera, but his videos don't come out to be very good. Any suggestions? What do you think about the Nikon
D5300? Oh, man.
Yeah,
I haven't used it, so it's kind of hard for me to say it. I'm like thinking right now what I heard. I mean, yeah, it's hard for me to answer because like if I don't have first-hand experience, I'd
most of these cameras these days, especially from Nikon, you can expect like good quality video quality in terms of the 1080 maybe. So if you're shooting 1080, I would expect from a camera like that you would be able to get good quality. It's more about the also what lenses you use, and then it's just like the skills, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it might not be the best camera out there, but at the same time, it's not something that will really hold you back, especially if you're just developing your skills, right? Like you should be able to produce impressive work with this camera. There's no reason not to.
If it shoots HD, then you're set for today. Like I'm saying, even paid jobs, right? And then once you get to those really big paying jobs, then you're gonna have the money to rent the latest thing. And that's another thing actually I would say is that to take that first kind of leap into the really like cinema kind of big professional cameras, Red and all that stuff, you pretty much, I mean, everybody that I know in the industry didn't do that by actually buying their own Red camera. Like if you think you have to I have to work really hard so I can afford, like a Red camera, like right now, the Red Weapon or whatever, it is going to be like the full rig is going to cost you $50,000-$60,000. It's a huge investment. I wouldn't make that investment. That's the reason why I haven't. Is because unless you're shooting with that camera like every day of the week, pretty much, and you can pay that amount off. I mean, it just doesn't make sense financially. So for me, what it was is that I remember like when I had like first jobs being offered to me, which were actually music videos. I literally just, the clients were like, yeah, I want to shoot it on a better camera. Sometimes they were specific. I want to shoot it on the Red or the Auray. I would just go to the local rental house, talk to them, see what's the best deal I could get on renting that camera. And usually I would try to schedule the shoot on like a weekend, because weekend you usually get, like, basically you rent it for 1 day, but you're technically getting it for like 2.5 days because you're picking it up on Friday, like evening. Then you have it Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday when the rental house opens, you return it in the morning. So you literally have it, like I said, for 2.5 days. And what I remember my first job like that is I never had experience shooting with the Red, but when the client asked me, I was like, oh sure, of course, I've used it, because at the end of the day, even though I lied in that aspect, I knew I knew my way around cameras. I used various DSLRs, I used film cameras, let's say, before that, and I already knew that, okay, I'm gonna get my hands on the Red, and it's the same crap on all these cameras. Like as long as you know how to use your lenses, your aperture, your shutter speed, and then your ISO now on digital cameras, to use it to your advantage, then you're set. And then it's just a matter of finding it where it is in the menu. And I remember that's what I did on my first job. Got the Red camera Friday evening, got home, and I had the whole evening to play with the camera. So I was in that, stayed up late playing around, making sure I knew the menu and everything. And then Saturday came, we shot the music video. Then I remember did some pickup shots, and then I did some other little tests on Sunday because it wasn't a full thing. And then I returned the camera on Monday, and it was great. And by the end of that weekend, I already knew how to use the camera. And right after that, and because it didn't cost me a cent, because the client paid for the whole rental of the camera. So why would I go out of my way and spend money on that camera when, like I said, when I know I'm gonna get it again when there's a job that pays for it, right? So.
Right. Here a question: DJI Mavic Pro, is it good enough for filmmaking, or could you get away with the Spark footage?
I mean, you can get away with the Spark footage. You can always get away with stuff because, like I said, it still shoots 1080 video. But Spark is, like I said, it's just if you want something slightly better than thing. Now, the Mavic Pro, I don't think is that much of a difference between the Spark and things. So if those are your choices, I would say, and you're really tight on money, yeah, just go for the Spark. Because yeah, the Mavic can do 4K, but that 4K isn't that great because the compression in that 4K, like the bit rate, is so bad that you have extra pixels when those pixels are really badly compressed. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, that video in 1080 is going to look very similar to the Spark. But if you're, for example, considering, let's say, going to like a DJI Phantom Pro, which has higher bit rates, or the Inspire, well, yeah, that you're going to see a big trade-off in that where you're paying more money, but you're getting not only just a higher resolution, but more control. You can adjust focus more because it's a bigger basically image sensor. Although I'll tell you also, guys, that I think it's kind of ridiculous. People are getting now these bigger and bigger cameras, you know, on drones, and they want like a bigger sensor. And there really is no need for that, because the majority of aerial shots, you're pretty much getting a wide shot. You're doing an aerial shot. You're not going to be flying it right up close to somebody, doing an intimate aerial shot. So because of that, you know, like I said, you're getting wide, establishing shots. So you want infinite depth of field. So in a way, you want a smaller image sensor, because you're gonna get, it's gonna be easier to get infinite, you know, the depth of field. So like I said, you don't always have to go with a bigger image sensor. But yeah, if your choice is Spark or the Mavic, I would say just go for the Spark if you're really tight on money.
Okay, here's okay. It's kind of going. I guess it's not. I'm not sure. It's not quite on the topic of the video, today's video. But what channels like on YouTube are you watching right now? So I guess this George Kenner. He's asking what small channels. But I thought maybe you want to like just maybe give out a shout out to a few of your favorite YouTube channels that you're watching that you can recommend to other filmmakers.
There's a lot of stuff that I watch that's not like filmmaking related. So I guess I'm not going to talk about that stuff, but. And I would say that's majority of what I watch. I try not to watch too much other filmmakers, not because I don't like their videos. There's a lot of amazing videos, but I just simply feel like, especially the guys who are creating stuff, when, you know, I feel like I'm going to get too influenced by their basically thing and end up like literally creating something that copies them. So that's one of the reasons why I try not to watch too much. But channels that I can definitely recommend, and these are also people that either I've talked to them or I've met them in person, so had some kind of a connection, or I've just been really, you know, a fan of their videos. Is Dave Dagdale. I remember, like, it was maybe not so much lately. I don't know what Dave is up to, or if he's even still doing stuff. But the last time I watched his videos, I remember and I liked his approach, because he's like a guy who's just kind of like a down-to-earth regular guy who's just like, hey, I want to learn how to use these cameras, and he doesn't claim to be an expert in anything. He just kind of takes you on a journey with him as he experiments with things. So that's kind of cool. And that was a refreshing point of view from me, somebody who came from the film industry, had that background, and seeing how people who don't have that, like basically filmmaking experience, how they look at things, kind of opened my eyes to kind of a different perspective. Another one is Ryan Connolly from Film Riot. I think great channel. Like, he's produced some amazing shorts that are just for his YouTube channel, some funny behind the scenes stuff. And then probably another one is who else? Maybe DSLR video shooter.
For gear review, for sure. He's got really good gear review. Like
Caleb, I think, is does some cool stuff. So I think sure. And he really goes in depth on a lot of things. And not only that, but he finds like these things that I was like, where the hell did you kind of like? How did you even come up with this idea? So that's the cool stuff. Like Caleb, really,
and he's got amazing product shots too, right?
Yeah. Like, no, the production of his videos have always been things, but I think it's the content. Even if he shot him horribly, it's just the content that he's got, the ideas that he comes up with. So for reviews, if you want more kind of filmmaking stuff, I would say, you know, Ryan Connolly, I think is better in that aspect. But yeah, I mean. But like I said, honestly, I don't even watch those channels that much, simply because like I said, I don't want to be too influenced by other stuff. But there are other great channels. So maybe now I'm going to show you guys. We have a great submission here from all the way from India, and it's from Amrit Rajesh, I think. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it okay. It's a music video he shot it's called for a band called Street Academics. He directed it, shot it, he did the coloring and everything, and he's just asking for my opinion. I actually did watch it already before the show, and I loved it. I mean, like, I think so. I'll just let you guys watch it, and hopefully, you know, we can kind of break it down and kind of talk about it. But hopefully, you guys feel the same way as I do. So, here is the music video. Oh, hold on, wrong. Okay, there it is.
പല പല പലതുണ്ടേ പറയാനേ ചില ചില കലപില പല കാര്യങ്ങൾ പല പല പലതുണ്ടേ പറയാനേ ചില ചില കലപില പല കാര്യങ്ങൾ അലതല്ലും വാദ്യങ്ങൾ കലിയിളകിയ നാൾ പകലൊന്നും രണ്ടും തരികിടതകത പലവട്ടം വിതറിയ കരവിരുതുകൾ ഒരിച്ചാൻ കര കണ്ടും കാണാതെ മിഴികളിൽ ഒരുമാ പല പല പലതുണ്ടേ പറയാനേ ചില ചില കലപില പല കാര്യങ്ങൾ പല പല പലതുണ്ടേ പറയാനേ ചില ചില കലപില പല കാര്യങ്ങൾ വെൺതീരങ്ങൾ നീലക്കടലായി വിരിഞ്ഞു ആഴങ്ങളിൽ സ്വപ്നത്തിൻ പവിഴം തിരഞ്ഞു അതരത്തിൻ നിമിഷത്തിൽ വെട്ടം തെളിഞ്ഞു ആ പ്രതിബിംബത്തിൽ ഞാൻ എന്നെ കണ്ടു പല പല പലതുണ്ടേ പറയാനേ ചില ചില കലപില പല കാര്യങ്ങൾ പല പല പലതുണ്ടേ പറയാനേ ചില ചില കലപില പല കാര്യങ്ങൾ പല പല പലതുണ്ടേ പറയാനേ ചില ചില കലപില പല കാര്യങ്ങൾ പല പല പലതുണ്ടേ പറയാനേ ചില ചില കലപില പല കാര്യങ്ങൾ
So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed it. It was, to me, I'll tell you right away. I mean, I already said it. I liked the video. What I really stood out to me was how, and I know because I already spoke to the filmmaker on Facebook. He was messaging me, asking me, am I going to feature the video? And I told him, yeah. I mean, it looks amazing. So he already knows more or less what I'm thinking, but just to kind of let you guys know, again, I think it's a perfect video that to be featured for today's show because it's done with very limited thing. Most of it was done handheld, one camera, and like I said, the filmmaker didn't stress too much. He and also the locations, like he used literally where he had access to, where he lives, where he knows the neighborhood, and he found just new creative ways to show those same streets, the workplaces, all that stuff. And that's the really cool thing about a video like this, is that this kind of shows you how if you're creative and you use what you have around you, and even if you're not living in Hollywood or whatever the center of the filmmaking industry happens to be, it's like I said, you can do some good quality work even if it's just a one-man team, like in the case of this video. What I really think also made it stand out is, aside from a lot of just cool angles, like little things like when he's making the coffee and you see the close-up with that steam. When he's kind of stressed at work and you see the camera attached to his chest, like those things like that. A lot of cool angles. And also, I think the sound design is very important. When the video opens and you have the sounds of the street and then it gets louder, that really immerses you in that place. Like I've never been to that city, but I almost feel like I know what it feels like to be there in those streets. And then the color grading is very cool because it's still shows the world, but it shows it to you in a very stylized thing. It's that kind of classic teal, orange teal look, but it's like I said, it's it's just taking the time and making sure that it's properly balanced, the colors and the brightness of it and everything still looks good. And he, we were talking to the filmmaker, he said he basically got this lot. I think it was a free lot, which I actually give away one of the orange and teal lots also on my website. So you can go to my tomantosfilms.com/downloads. You'll see all the free stuff I give away. And you just literally use one of these lots, it's a lookup table, apply it in your editing program, adjust the shots, like take time, doing all those things. Take time editing, everything done properly to music, to sell the emotion, and you can see a video that's fairly low budget can look really, really cool. And you know, it's gonna right away put you on a whole other level. Like just showing that video, I would say, even if you don't have a demo reel, but you just have one video like that, that should get you jobs already. So, so anyways, hopefully that inspires you guys to not stress so much about the gear, and just, you know, like I said, don't stress about the gear. Just go out there and work with whatever you have. If you have to borrow a camera, borrow it. At the end of the day, just go out there and create. Lucas, any last words?
Wisdom? Oh man, put me on the spot. Now overall, I like the music video, right? It was so yeah. So I second that, and yeah, just I mean, I think everything is like just have to, in terms of learning anything, you can get really good just by doing anything. Like if you do it enough, and rather than theorizing, like you know, it's really good to just do stuff and then get the feedback, and you see mistakes and feedback from yourself and from other people. But like, you know, you can, this is how people learn anything, right? So the faster you can get feedback, the faster you're going to, you know, correct your mistakes and so on. So like just repeat, you know, and keep doing it, and you're going to get good. And yeah, so if you can, and if you have, you know, even like a simple camera in your hands, then really can be, you know, you can get a lot of projects done in a short period of time. So just go out there and then, yeah, keep getting better. And anybody can get to a pretty damn good level just by, you know, practicing.
Yeah. All right. So I guess that's it, right, for today's show?
I think so.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. So we'll
we'll
see you next week. And keep those submissions coming. So if you want to feature videos on our show next week, just submit it. Links for how to submit it are in the description of the video. Bye.
Bye, everyone.